Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the ninth film by Quentin Tarantino. Well, not really the ninth, I guess, unless you're not counting Death Proof, or you're combining Kill Bill 1 and 2.
It's the J. Craig Movie Review. Movie Review. A movie review.
Now, I'm a big fan of Tarantino simply because he is a cinephile. He loves movies and he appreciates just everything about movies. And so there was a time in my life where I just loved movies that way, where I just dissected them and I just absorbed them and I was just all about movies. So I appreciate what he is as a filmmaker. Do I like all his movies? No. I really loved his first three entries, and there's a couple other movies throughout that I really liked, but I don't like everything he makes, but I enjoy everything he makes to a certain extent, right? So I appreciate everything he makes, definitely. Now, this movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, even has Kurt Russell, and a bunch of other people that you kind of expect to see in a Tarantino movie, his usual cast of characters, if you will. But ultimately, this movie is about Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Leo plays Rick Dalton, an aging 1950s TV star. This is in the 60s, so he's on the downslope of his career. He's just kind of the bad guy now. He's the heavy. He's the guy that you throw in for one episode kind of thing, right? Now, Brad Pitt plays his stunt double, and they've been around each other for a long time. And it's really a buddy film. Okay, this is Tarantino's excuse to make a buddy film. I think this was his answer to like a Newman Redford team up, right? And because in a way, this is an excuse to get Brad Pitt and Leo in the same room. That's all there is to it. But it works, unlike The Dead Don't Die, which is an excuse for those guys to get together and have fun. It doesn't work for me, but this movie did work because those guys are magic. I love Leo and Brad Pitt both together with Tarantino is really good cinema. However, the story is very lacking in what it really wants to do. But here's the thing. If you don't know the backdrop of this movie, I don't think it's going to make a lick of sense or have the proper kind of tension. So this is kind of a spoiler, just FYI if you don't want to hear this. But I think it's necessary for you to really enjoy the full concept of this movie. Be aware. Okay, spoiler. Now, this is about the Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski house murders by the Manson family in '69. And that's the backdrop. Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate just moved into a house next door to Rick Dalton. And there's the connection. And that's where the story is, okay? Roman Polanski is a filmmaker who did Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby and a bunch of other movies. And he was married to Sharon Tate. And they were murdered by the Manson family members, very brutally and viciously, and that's what the story's about. Now, Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate, and I think she is, while she's really good at Sharon Tate, her scenes really don't add anything to the movie. So while the movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, if you're looking at something to trim, it'd be her. Because there's nothing that she's not adding anything other than adding credence to the fact that she's Sharon Tate. And something happens, right? So, but I understand why she has to be there, because you have to have that connection. Otherwise, none of it has any impact. None of it has any tension. All right, now, what the story is really about is about these two buddies, Leo and Brad Pitt. And, Leo's getting offers to go to make spaghetti westerns overseas, and Brad Pitt is kind of just along for the ride. He gets into his own adventure, and there's a sequence where he's going towards a house and trying to get into a house that is, for me, it was some really, really good stuff because I was riveted to my seat. I was clenched up. Let's just put it that way. And I tell you, it really works because he knows how to work you, cinema goers. He knows how to do this. He knows how to twist things. He knows how to give you something that you're going to expect, and then, nope, that wasn't what I expected. So he's awesome. I love Tarantino. But ultimately, I don't think a lot of people are going to really dig this movie because I don't think they understand the story because there's really not much of a story. Ultimately, right? There's Rick Dalton comes back from, so there's really no story. It's the most linear story next to Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown had flashbacks, stuff like that, but ultimately it was a linear story. And many people didn't like it because it wasn't Pulp Fiction. Well, I can see a lot of people not liking this movie unless you're a true Tarantino fan or you really just like watching good actors. There's that. But the other part of it is the dialogue didn't seem like Tarantino. Not in a bad way. Not like it was bad dialogue. It just didn't pop. It didn't just come off the page. Certain sequences did, mind you. Certain things did. Certain lines did. But for the most part, it felt like it was made in the 60s. It felt like a true 60s movie. It looked like a good 60s movie too, you know? So it had that effect now. But the dialogue wasn't like you'd expect. So there's certain things you expect in a Tarantino movie, you know, non-linear fashion, great dialogue, interesting characters, gruesome violence, you know, lots of profanity. There's certain elements that you expect. And this is a little bit more linear. There are flashbacks, and the flashbacks are fantastic. You're seeing the television show that they are making. You're seeing that he was in. You're seeing him as a character in The Great Escape and what it would have been if he was cast instead. There are some really nice moments because, again, he loves cinema, and he's just able to do all these fun things now with it. I really like this movie, and as more time passes, the more I like it. Will everyone like this movie? No. And this is not the best Tarantino movie by far, but I really liked it because, I mean, for me, it hits a lot of nice moments. You know, you have the fact that he's going to make spaghetti westerns. He's working with people like Sergio Kobuki from The Great Silence. You have the Brad Pitt stunt double who is, you know, facing off with, or at least having a conversation with Bruce Lee. You have the Mansons. You have all these really interesting elements that just man, this is really cool. But again, it's a very non-existent story in many ways, but you're just having fun watching these characters, and that's the whole point of the movie. I think that's pretty much all I got for you. Go see it. I mean, it's Tarantino, and quite frankly, there's nothing out except for Spider-Man, and I mean, there's that Lion King movie, but don't get me started on that. So seriously, and it's got Kurt Russell. And he narrates some of the movie too. So I mean, come on. And the other cool thing is, you know, you have Brad Pitt and Leonardo Dicaprio watching the movie or the TV show that he's in, right? And they're waiting for the moment that he's coming on. The way they talk about the movies, it's really fun watching those two guys watch a movie and talk about the movie. So I mean, anybody who loves movies, that's you and your friends, right? So I mean, this is a guy who loves movies, and this is his love letter to the 60s, and every movie that he makes is his love letter to cinema fans. That's all there is to it. So I hope you enjoyed this movie review. Go see the movie. Don't forget to like and subscribe to J. Craig. We'll see you next time. Go see the movie.
It's the J. Craig Movie Review. You watch till the end. Thanks, like, and subscribe.